Pizza delivery guys. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen while delivering pizza? One Saturday night I was delivering pizza to a high-rise building. I got into the elevator and there was this dude dressed like a pimp trying to buy the pizza I was supposed to deliver from me. He didn't even ask what it came with or what size it was. He just pulled out a $100 bill and said I'll buy it for $100. I politely declined and he pulled out another $100 bill and offered me $200. I told him I could get fired. That was a tough one to refuse. Now here's where it gets interesting. I walk up to the guy's door and he opens the door and he looks like a pimp too. In this big floral jacket. Grabs the pizza. Hands me $100 and closes the door. The pizza was about $35. $65 tip. Overall, got the biggest tip of my life from a dude who was dressed like a pimp just seconds after turning down the biggest bribe of my life from another dude who was dressed like a pimp. The pimp homies were apparently testing the loyalty of the local pizza joints. I think the pimp in the elevator wanted to buy a pizza to pretend to be the second pimp's delivery guy. When the second pimp opens the door, the first pimp shoots the second pimp. You saved the pimp's life with your decency. At least that's what I would tell my grandchildren. A dude opened the door to an apartment completely naked. I was stunned, but what followed made me wonder if he was some kind of fucking magician. He reached behind his back and pulled out his wallet. The only reasonable explanation I could come up with was that he had the wallet between his buns. I must say, that's a pretty powerful move. I was delivering pizza in a pretty rough neighborhood one time. 3 spics answered the door and when one of them went to get the money I noticed huge piles of cash, a shitload of meth and weed that could kill Snoop Dogg, and about 20 guns. I was so scared. He tipped me $20 in cash and told me not to tell anyone. I hope they're not on Reddit. Hey, you just ratted on me. You're screwed. One time a guy opened the door for me with a snake on his shoulders. Not a small snake or a grass snake, but a royal python, probably about 2 meters long. When he closed the door, I heard him telling someone that I didn't react. Sounded so disappointed. Just the other day there was a delivery, where I was met by 2 guys, looked like 25 years old, on the roof of a house in their underwear. They were clearly delighted with the pizza they delivered. Did you throw the pizza up like Walter White? This guy ordered a large pepperoni pizza. When I got home he wasn't there, so I called him over. He said he was taking a crap in the toilet, so I had to wait 18 minutes to pay. I should have charged him a couple bucks for the wait. I work for DoorDash and Grubhub delivery services. Sometimes I deliver pizza. One time I received an order on both apps at the same time, with the same content, from the same restaurant. Both customers were named James, and they had to deliver to the same hotel. When I knocked on the door, there were 2 guys who asked me if I was from DoorDash or Grubhub. I told them that I had both of their orders. They started laughing really hard. When I asked what was funny, they told me that they had made a bet on whose order would be delivered first. They thought there would be 2 different delivery guys, and they would never have thought that one guy would use both apps. I laughed too, and asked which one was James. They said that their names were both James. I still wonder what other funny things those 2 guys are trying to come up with. When I got there were 3 dudes in their underwear waiting for me. As I was handing over the pizza, more dudes were coming out in their underwear, but they were also wearing cowboy hats and Indian headdresses. It was some kind of Halloween party or something. I had to pull the tip out of the guy's bra. It was funny as hell, but when I walked out of the building, I had to think for a second about what the fuck was going on. There was one order from a young couple. I arrived quite early and probably interrupted their sex. The drunk guy had no idea that he was wearing his girlfriend's skirt. Nothing unusual, but it was very hard not to laugh. I arrived at the place with my order, and as I stood in the doorway waiting for the guy to pay, I heard moans and groans coming from inside the house. The kid kept looking back into the living room and laughing. After he paid and handed me the cash register, he said, "Holy shit, man, you gotta see this." He took a step back and I walked into the living room where there were about 5 other dudes watching a big-ass TV as a kid fucked a 700-pound chick's belly roll. This has to be my dream pizza delivery job. Back in college, I was delivering pizza. I had a delivery to the local county jail. Some officer was taking someone to jail. This dude, who was being led into jail with his hands cuffed behind his back, escaped from the officer, and as I was walking in, he ran into me. I'm pretty sure this guy was high on meth. The officer tackled us both to the ground and pinned him down. I was covered in pizza sauce. The officers on that shift took the pizza and each gave me $20. I told my manager. We made a new pizza. and I delivered it to them again. The cops were grateful and gave me an extra tip. I made about $400 for one delivery. I'd like to add that every time they ordered pizza from us, they always asked for the guy in charge to deliver it, and they always gave me a good tip. Good times. I was delivering pizza late one night. The guy who called told me that the customer, let's call him Mark, was an old man and it might take a while for him to get to the door. I got to the house. All the lights were out. No car in the parking lot. No answer. I knock on the door. No answer. I call on the cell phone. Silence. I call again. Still nothing. At this point I had been waiting for this guy for about 15 minutes. As soon as I started to walk back to the car, I heard the front door open, so I went back. The lights were also out, so I could only see the head of a young girl peeking out from behind the door. She refused to open the door all the way to get the pizza. Then I heard another girl behind her say, "Whatever. If he sees, open the door." She opened it a little wider so she could sign the check. She couldn't see anything, so I offered to turn on the flashlight on my phone so she could sign. Then I realized both girls were naked. Being the good worker that I am, I looked away while she signed and then headed to my car. As I was leaving, one of them shouted at me, "Have a nice evening." Mark is already having a nice evening, and I laughed because I had completely forgotten that this was an old man's house. Mark couldn't get to the door because he was tied up. Delivered an order to a hotel. The guy blacked out 3 times in the space of 10 minutes during our meeting. Looks like he was a narcoleptic, but it still scared the shit out of me. Narcoleptic here. He probably had a cataplexy attack. We don't pass out. We're still conscious but we lose muscle control so we look like we've passed out. In some isolated cases it can look like a seizure because we're trying to move to cause spasms. It's due to emotion, so he was probably overexcited or something. One of my neighbors killed a pizza delivery guy. The guy worked as a delivery guy while he was in college. The neighbor got life for premeditated murder. They just explicitly said delivery would be in 30 minutes or less. As the wise men say, forgiveness is a gift from God, but never pay full price for a late pizza. The lady with the pugs. Right before closing time we got some weird orders for 2 pieces of chocolate cake and 2 cans of whipped cream. Whipped cream wasn't on the menu so she'd prepay and negotiate with management. That made her think she was VIP. She was fat as hell, had 3 pugs, was rude, and never tipped. It was a cold night, a bad shift, and of course I got called to the trailer park. I decided today was the day to get back at her. I ripped open the cans of cream and squashed her cakes. I gave her the order and told her to stop ordering 5 minutes before closing. By the time I got back to the place she'd already complained. My boss refused to give me a paycheck until I brought her some decent cans. And here's where things get interesting. When I came back, her dress was pulled up. I couldn't help but notice the wet, smeared cream all over her crotch, staining her black leggings. Looking down, I saw one of the pugs with his face covered in cream, dripping down his chin. When I explained to my boss that she was probably an animal abuser, he finally blacklisted her. When I read the pug lady, I was like, yay, finally something interesting that's not weird sex shit. It ended up being weird sex shit. Thanks for watching. In the comments under the video Pizza Delivery Guys you can write the strangest thing you saw when you worked.